Life is a winding road, no telling where it goes.
Hey everyone, welcome back to a Meeple family. If you're new here, I'm Amber and would love for you to take a moment to hit the subscribe button down below so you can follow along on all of my board game commentary and shenanigans. I have 4 kiddos, and as much as I enjoy a good family game, I really love playing board games by myself, solo, that's right. It's my me time, it's how I unwind. I so appreciate this board game community because when people ask me what my hobby is, I have to actually take a second to think how much I want to explain with saying like, oh, I love to play board games solo, and they look at me like I'm crazy, and they will usually ask me, I didn't know you could play Monopoly solo. And then I'm just like, here we go, you know? So anyway, I love this board game community because nobody looks at me like I'm crazy, and I don't really have to give a lot of explanation, and that is a very treasured gift for me. Today, we are counting down board games 60 through 51, and this is out of my top 100 games. I can't believe we're just about to the halfway point, so let's get started. All right, number 60 is Trekking Through History. Trekking Through History is a beautifully designed game that takes players on a journey through time. Yes, time travel. That is incredible. So during the game, I think it's played over 3 rounds, and you're gonna be visiting all these major historical moments. Players have to choose which events to experience. Different events are gonna cost them time, so they have to kind of have that in their mind while they're picking which events to visit. Now this game, I was mulling this over, and I'm gonna coin a new phrase here in the board game hobby that's potentially never been used before. And like I said, I really gave this a lot of thought, but I think that this is a good example for this new term. And I definitely have more on my list because I like these kind of games, and I call it administrative adventures. And these are games where, like an administrator of, you know, like an office or something, your work is a little redundant when you maybe are an administrator of an office. There's not like a lot of huge decisions that you need to make on a day-to-day basis. You basically have clear outlines of what you need to do every day, and you just get it done. And that to me is what this administrative adventure is, and that to me is also what Trekking Through History is. And I know that you're probably like, wow, that's an interesting way to describe your number 60 board game. Well, it's my list. I know that's crazy, but I just love these kinds of games. I love them when I just need sometimes a mental break. I feel like I accomplish something, I get something done, and I just leave the table feeling really good. Like I just traveled through time super efficiently and collected tokens and put them on my card and completed things. And that is just something that I need in this like genre of game. So I guess in saying all of that, this isn't a type of game that everyone's gonna like, and I'm definitely doing a video on this type of game, like my favorite top 10 administrative adventure games. That will be coming out because I think there are other people out there just like me, and we are gonna find each other. And I didn't mention it, but obviously this is one you can play solo, and you can download I think it's a fan-made variant, I'm not sure on that, but you can download it from Board Game Geek. I definitely recommend it if you, like me, like the administrative adventures. And I'm gonna keep saying administrative adventures as many times as possible to see if I can get this to stick in the board game community. I know you're out there and you're like me, and you're just like, I need a game where I feel like an administrator, I don't have a lot of decisions to make, but I just need to like do something and feel like I'm accomplishing something. I know you're out there. All right, let's move on. All right, number 59 for me is Forbidden Desert. This particular game, I know a lot of people have covered it, but I am going to take a channel that I fell down the rabbit hole and I watched all of her content, and it's called Board and Botany. And I think her name is Bailey, and I believe I picked up somewhere in the videos that she is an accountant, which is very similar to the type of work that I do, and I just found so many parallels with her gaming style. Don't you guys love it when you find somebody like that and they're a content creator? So I was like watching all her solo playthroughs and seeing some of her games that were her favorites and game recommendations. So if you guys haven't checked her out, I wanted to tag her in this because I owe a lot of these incredible games to ones that she shared on her channel, and then I discovered that I kind of like blew off maybe not thinking I would like them. So in watching Bailey's channel, Botany and Board, I think is what it is, I will have it linked, I fell down the rabbit hole of these forbidden games that I kind of thought, well, they're cooperative games, I'm not gonna be interested in those, but I really, really have enjoyed them. And I've played Forbidden Desert and I've played Forbidden Island. I have Forbidden Jungle sitting on my shelf because one of my dear, dear Instagram friends recommended it. I will link his channel down below as well. He thought that I might really enjoy that one too, so I haven't had a chance to play that one, but I absolutely have really enjoyed Forbidden Desert. And to me, this one as well is falling under administrative adventures because it is very like cookie cutter. You know what you need to do, you just gotta puzzle it out. Basically, in this game, you have crash landed onto a desert. You have asymmetrical characters you are playing, so there's different combinations. I usually play 3 different characters at a time. So the hardest thing when you're playing these solo is just keeping track of whose turn it is. So I have a system so I know whose turn is it. Like, am I playing the pilot? Am I playing the diver? Am I playing the, excavator or whatever? So I've played it at 3 and that's kind of a sweet spot for me. And this definitely has that administrative adventure feel where you just are doing what you need to do. You're getting things done. You either win or lose at the end. I have pretty good luck with this game, but I've definitely lost it a lot as well, just because the sand can get away from you pretty quickly. But I love this one visually on the table, surprisingly. I love the way it looks. I love that it thematically just kind of makes sense to me, that you're kind of fighting against the elements. You're trying to keep your people hydrated. That's a big thing, right? Is they're losing water. So you're keeping everyone hydrated and then trying not to get buried by sand. And you have to try to get all the parts of your ship back to a main tile and then like have it built and fly off into the sunset. Love this game. It's a great one. I love the sci-fi element to it. It has that feel to me. But anyway, that is my number 59, Forbidden Desert. All right, I'm just chatty. I'm super chatty today. I can feel it. Like I'm over explaining these games and I'm all over the place. So I apologize. I feel like the higher up we're gonna get on this list, the more down rabbit holes I will be going because I love these games and I'm thinking about them, thinking about playing them, thinking about experiences with them. So nature of the beast here. All right, number 58 is Creature Comforts. And at this point, if you are a board gamer immersed in this hobby, this is a little bit of an older game, but I'm sure you know about it. So I'm not gonna spend a huge amount of time going over like how to play, although I don't really think I've done that on any of these games. It's stinking adorable, first of all. The components are amazing. I do have the upgraded like bits for this one. I bought this as a combo when they launched their other Kickstarter. I'll have to put the name in the description because my mind is going blank. I play this game about every fall, winter. This comes out a couple times and I just kind of like leave it set up and I'll just play several solo games like back to back to back. And then I put it away and then I wait and bring it out again the next fall and winter. I have made a huge mistake with this game and it almost completely fell off my list for life. And let me tell you what I did was I sat down with my entire family of 6, all of us, my 4 kids, my husband, and we played this game and it was absolute torture. It was the worst board game experience I've had. And I have one other one on this list that I'll talk about. And I just want to give you a warning because I don't want you to make the same mistakes I did. And this is not a good game to play with 6 people, especially of varying ages. When you play this game with more than yourself or maybe just 2 people, because there are these communal dice that everyone has to use, the turns become obnoxiously long. So in this game, it's like a worker placement game. If you don't know, players are preparing their homes for winter. They're gathering these like adorable resources and they're making these adorable little things like socks and soups and breads. And it's so cute. And you're like, this is the perfect game for my family. No, don't do it. It is so obnoxiously long. So this is a game I will absolutely only tell you to play solo or like 2 people because the turns are so long and you have to wait on each other. There's no like, oh, let me think through everything and be ready. For us, it ended up like 2 hours. My kids were engaged for about 15 minutes. And then it was like the turns became so obnoxiously long that kids were fighting, it was crazy, it was not a good experience. So that's my spiel about creature comforts, but I do love this game. I just have to be careful how I play it. We all know that games can, you make it or break it with the right player count. For me, in my opinion, just sharing this with you, do not buy this game to play with your entire family. I think it is absolute torture. If you're gonna play it solo or 2 people, like max, I think it's amazing. It is such a great game. I love how they use the dice, but there's better games out there that don't have such long turns with this same type of mechanic. This one, you just gotta have a smaller player count. All right, let's move on. Number 57 is Lord of the Rings Duel for Middle-earth. Now, this is a 2-player duel-inspired game, and it comes and branches off of the Seven Wonders Duel box. It just has now this amazing Lord of the Rings overlay on it. I personally never got into Seven Wonders Duel, like the whole world. I tried to play it several times. It didn't resonate with me, the theme, the cards, the way that you would win, science tracks, and I was just like, what? I just didn't like it. I just didn't like it. With this new Lord of the Rings overlay, I'm in love with this. Like, it makes sense to me. I like how you can win. And most importantly, there is a Board Game Geek solo variant that I love playing. This is one I wouldn't say I can really put into the administrative adventures category because there's a little bit more upkeep in the AI and a little bit more thought behind what you're doing and what the AI is doing and the decisions that the AI would make. And I'm getting a little ahead of myself, so basically, if you don't know how this game plays, this is a card drafting game, and basically you're drafting cards in order to take actions, and depending on what cards you draft, there's also going to be new cards revealed in the tableau of cards you can draft from. So you're drafting these cards and you're taking actions, and I believe it's one of 3 different scenarios that you can win, and this kind of happens as you accumulate kind of like-minded cards or like-suited cards. One of my favorite things about this is there's this ring track. I'll try to put an image of it here so you can see it. It's absolutely beautifully done. The artwork in this game is beautiful, but basically as you obtain these different ring cards, if you're playing Frodo, you're moving up and you're getting rewards for that. If you're playing the other guys, you're kind of chasing Frodo to Mount Doom. Just absolutely love the way this is implemented. There's also another area of this where it's kind of like an area control section where you're putting troops on there, you're kind of like kicking people out, they're going to war and they're battling to be like king of the hill over there. That's another way you can win, kind of that area majority. This is just such a fun game, and I can see now what people loved about Seven Wonders that I was missing. I think for me, I just needed the right theme to really help me appreciate the mechanics of what that game had to offer. In my opinion, of course, I like this one better because I was never really a fan of Seven Wonders Duel, but this one, or Seven Wonders in general, but this one I love. And like I said, I love to play it solo. I hope I can do a solo playthrough for you guys because I feel like sometimes these fan-made variants that get made, they get kind of lost and people don't know they're available. So I definitely want you to know that that is there, and I think it is done very, very well. But that is my number 57, Lord of the Rings Duel for Middle-earth. All right, number 56 is Puzzle Dungeon. This is a solitaire card game. That's right, we're just talking about a deck of cards here, which I love when I have tiny little portable games. It is so much fun, but this one is packed full of gameplay and versatility, a lot of replayability. It's similar to Decula, which I talked about earlier in these videos, which if you guys haven't seen my other videos, I will have them linked in the description. I forgot to say that in the beginning, but they should be linked down there, a playlist, so you can kind of catch up on all the games I've talked about. This one I feel like is a little bit more of a table hog. Once you set everything up, I think it takes up a little bit more space than Decula. I absolutely love the gameplay. I love the artwork. It's such a great solo game, which is the only way you can play it. It is a true solo only game. The reprint for this is actually available on Etsy, so I'm going to link that down in the description below if you guys want to check it out. I had to wait for them to come out with the reprint so I could purchase it. I've been so happy with it, and I want to make sure that you guys can access it as well. So basically your deck is kind of divided into two parts. You're gonna have this tableau of monsters that you have to defeat, and they're kind of all stacked, every other one on top of each other. And you're trying to defeat the first row and work your way back. And I believe that this is supposed to emulate one of the solitaire games. I'm not sure if it's like Free Cell or Spider Solitaire or one of those, but the theme is just so awesome in this one. And then, so you have the monsters, and then the other half of your deck has like numbers and icons on it. And each monster card is going to have a certain icon or combination of icons that it needs in order for you to defeat the monster. As you discard these icons to defeat the monster is going to unlock some kind of a special ability and give you another icon that you can use in the future to defeat another monster. So you're kind of keeping track of all of these different icons and which icons are needed, and you can kind of see which icons are needed for which monsters, because it's all kind of fanned out. You just can't get to them all because you have to start with the front row of monsters. Hopefully I'm explaining this and it's making sense. The other cool thing about this is you have, I think they're called hero cards, that's what I'm gonna call them, but there's a whole huge stack of these like hero cards that you can play, and each of these heroes that you play have special abilities, and then they also have special objectives to win the game. So every time you play, it's a little bit different based on this asymmetric hero that you're playing. And then of course, obviously the way that the monsters are dealt out is going to change. There's also some different elements that you can add into the game. I love this game. You can find playthroughs of it online if I'm not doing it justice, but it is such a good game. That's why I highly recommend this if you love solo games, you love card games, you love dungeon crawlers. It's really fun, it's really whimsical art, and I think you would enjoy it if you have a similar game aesthetic as me, so be sure to check it out. All right, number 55 is the game Mandala. I think I'm saying that right, Mandala. Well, as I've stated in my video, I only have a handful of two-player games I really like, and obviously this is one of them. One, I think it's really gorgeous, and it is this abstract two-player game that involves some area control, set collection, and just strategic timing. And I'm pretty sure this is the only game, I think, that I personally own. I know there's some that are out there, but that I own that have like a linen cloth. So it just seems very approachable, I guess, and like a relaxed, chill vibe when you're laying out a linen cloth as your game board. But basically the way this game works is you're building out these mandalas in the center of the table, and you're using different colored cards to do that. There's obviously rules with that, but I won't go into those here. So as you're building out these mandalas in the center, and then you're able to kind of draft them into your river. And the way that these colors are drafted into your river is then going to dictate the value of them. So every time you play, depending on like which spot is drafted when and where in your river will dictate which color for you is going to be most profitable in that game, which is going to be most likely different than your opponent. So the tension in this game is really interesting because everybody has public knowledge of which colors are more valuable to each other. So if your opponent really wants green because that's the highest value in their river, you know, I might want to make sure that I'm kind of like hate drafting that so they can't get points at the end of the game for having the most green. I'm definitely not doing the rules justice here. I'm finding that it's really hard to explain without the game in front of me, but this is such a clever, wonderfully done, creative, outside of the box two-player game that I love. That is my number 55. All right, number 54. I have talked about this on my channel if you followed me 2 years ago, and it is called Doodle Dungeon. Such a hit in my house. It's one that everybody loves, myself, my husband, my kids, so obviously it's gonna get a place on the list because that's hard to do. So in Doodle Dungeon, which I say is kind of like this hybrid of a dungeon crawler and a flip and write, you're gonna be drafting these dungeon elements, monsters, traps, treasures, and you're gonna get this grid of paper, and you're drawing all of these elements literally out constructing your own personal dungeon kind of based on what you're drafting into your dungeon. So you're actually bringing it to life, and then the game goes above and beyond because you're not done at just drawing. You then hand your blueprint of your dungeon to another player who then has to navigate the dungeon. I obviously love dungeon crawler themes, so this one is just super fun. It's whimsical. There's so much strategy in drafting cards to not only build your dungeon, but then you're going to use cards to actually go through someone else's dungeon. I love that they didn't just stop at drawing the game, but they're like, hey, you know what'd be cooler? Let's have like the other players go through the person's dungeon that they just drew. I think it's hilarious. I think it's fun. And it's got a lot of player interaction. And like I said, I guess it's kind of a flip and write. It's one of the few that I enjoy. I don't always enjoy flip and writes, but this one is so fun and I absolutely love it. All right, number 53 is Comic Hunters. Well, this game was all the rage at Gen Con last year. I was following all the hullabaloo about it over on Board Game Geek, and then I saw that someone said, like, while Gen Con was going on, hey guys, I just picked my copy up at Barnes & Noble, which I found utterly hilarious because, you know, everyone's like standing in line at Gen Con and then it was just like at Barnes & Noble. So I don't know who planned that, like who was like, hey, let's release this at Barnes & Noble at the same time that everyone's at Gen Con waiting in line to pick it up. I was just like, that was an interesting decision. But anyway, I thought it was funny. I don't know if any of you guys followed that, but I have that memory. So, and it's always tied to this game because I just remember, you know, there's always like that one or like handful of like Gen Con games that are iconic, and this was definitely one. So I saw this game reviewed quite a while ago, and I'm sure we all did, but it was like only in Portugal or something, and then like a publisher bought it, and like I don't know all the ins and outs, but boom, it's here in America, and I could finally buy it, and I was so excited, and I did buy it from Barnes & Noble because I couldn't go to Gen Con last year, so I was super excited when that person posted that, and I picked it up, and I knew from watching the content on it, like when it was still at Portugal, that I was like, oh, I'm gonna love this game. I love the artwork, like it just had everything I wanted, and I knew I wanted it like in my collection, and no regrets. I love this game. Well, I have some negative things to say, but I'll get to that in a minute. So in this game, you're basically trying to build the best collection, and it's rounds, multiple rounds, and each round is kind of thematically focused on this unique drafting mechanic based on how you're collecting these comics. So you're trying to build this collection. What I also like is there's a lot of variability every time you play because there's these little tokens, which I'll talk about in a minute. At the beginning of the game, you're kind of like randomly placing them out, and it kind of gives you the goal of building that highest valued comic collection. So I really like that mechanism alone, where you're not just like, oh, I need to get X, Y, and Z every single time I play. There's a lot of variability in that and how the tokens go out and what actually you're wanting to go for to make this really, really high-end comic collection. I, of course, play this game solo, which I also really love that it has a solo mode, and I can play it fairly quickly. And if you love card drafting, comics, this is a great one to check out. Okay, so the only negative I have about this game, as does I feel like everyone in the world that has played this game, is that it is not high quality. The cards are not high quality, the components are not high quality, but on the other side of that, this game, I think like MSRP is only like $20. So it's a give and take. Of course, if you're into the board game hobby, you're like a connoisseur of board games, personally, would I rather pay a little bit more and have a nicer quality game? Yes. But I have seen other people upgrade some of their components, you know, sleeve their cards. There's workarounds. We're used to that in the board game hobby. But I will say the little chips that you put out, they're like some of the worst tokens I've ever seen. I have no idea why they weren't like, hey, let's just print this on a little bit thicker cardboard. But they were like, no, let's find the thinnest type of cardboard we can print this on, and we can save, you know, whatever, 50 cents. I don't know. I don't understand, but it was an interesting decision, but I still love this game. That's why it's on my list. All right, this is definitely one of my longer videos. I hope this isn't like a sign of things to come as my videos get... I just love these games. I love talking about them. It's so fun. Okay, number 52 is the game Wormholes. So this is one that I have done a playthrough on the channel for, so you guys can check that out. I'll try to link it in the description below. I think I did a how to play, and then I think I did a solo playthrough, which I'm sure I did rules mistakes for because I just do. I get too excited playing and I forget things and it just happens. But at the core, this game is a pick up and deliver game with this beautiful outer space theme. In this game, players create these wormholes in order to zip around the galaxy delivering passengers, and the more efficient you are placing your wormholes, The more passengers you can drop off, meaning you score more points. I personally love the theme of this one. I think it looks really, really beautiful on the table. And when I get it out, I feel like the solo is done really well and it's really simple to navigate. And of course, yes, that is the way I prefer to play, but I do think it's great at 2 people. I haven't really played much beyond that because I just really like to solo play. So that's typically where I stay and where I hang out. I would say for this one, obviously, if you love pickup and delivery as well as a space theme, this is definitely one you want to check out. I think it's a hidden gem. I don't think enough people have tried this game and they've just kind of saw it and like moved on, but I think it's a really great game. All right, number 51 is an older game called Hardback. I absolutely love this game. Like I said, it's older and I believe it was a prequel to Paperback, which is also a fantastic game, but this is a deck building word game. Players build their decks of letters and then race to 60 fame points, and you're able to actually specialize in like certain genres of books, which help you then like trigger and unlock combos. I think that I love this game because it's just unique. I'm in a situation where I don't have a lot of games like this. This specific publisher does put out a lot of these like word games and I love them. I'm here for all of them. I also love deck builders, so the deck building component in this game really draws me in and I love it. Of course, I think when you're doing a word game, every time you play, it's a little bit unique based on the cards that come out. This is another one that I want to mention that I often play on my app. I'll play this one, and I talked to you guys earlier about Takenoko. This one I play on my app a lot. I really, really like it. Sometimes I just want like a quick, easy word game, and I love this one. If you guys haven't checked out the app, there's an AI opponent that you play against, and I just find it to be really fun and enjoyable. And like I said, I love the deck building aspect, and I love how you can decide kind of which path you want to take based on what type of genre you're going to pursue throughout the game. So this one is just that perfect blend of deck building and a word game, and it's so unique and I love it. All right, well that is it for today's list. Let me know in the comments if you had a chance to play any of these, what your thoughts are, if you agree. You can also tell me if you disagree. I will read those and probably still heart and thumbs up your comment. But I hope you enjoyed the commentary that I offered on these games. I hope it got you excited to maybe try some out if you haven't had the chance yet. I always like to know if one of my recommendations is one you hadn't heard of or one that you hadn't considered. I think it's always fun to find a newer game, but yet like an older game. Sometimes I get burnt out on just like all the new. It's so fun to go revisit like all these great games that are already out there that we can access and get. So I hope that some were on this list for you. Well, as always, thank you to everybody who likes, subscribes, and comments. It really helps out my channel, which is trying to be resuscitated after 2 years. And I really do appreciate it. It literally helps and it actually makes a difference. So if you feel like, I'm not gonna like it or I'm not gonna comment or I don't need to subscribe, like it really does make a difference and I really appreciate it. I also want to just say thank you so much because in the busy lives that you lead, that you would take a few moments to hang out with me here on YouTube and talk nerdy stuff like board games. It's just so awesome. I just really appreciate it. And I hope you guys have a great rest of your day and I'll see you next week.
You can say I lost my mind. I will keep on holding my head high, even if the sky is falling down.